Six, five, four, three, two, one, go. Face in your face.
What the hell is going on down there?
Face in your face.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching the channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I also have another YouTube channel called Latina Diaspora, where I discuss issues regarding Latinos in the United States. The link to that channel is in the description. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, the subscriber mode has been enabled for the first 5 minutes, meaning if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you have to have been a subscriber 5 minutes going into the stream. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who've already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just recently joined, I really appreciate your love and continued support. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices, and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So, what I'm going to ask you, if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, uh, like, and set the bell notifications to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So, as you can see by the thumbnail, we're having another episode open discussion. Normally, I will have this done on Friday nights, but being that tomorrow I have a social engagement, which I will be attending, that's the reason why um, we're having this episode open discussion tonight. Now, before I continue, let me just state that the link to join the panel has been pinned. Should anyone wishes to hit that link and opine regarding whatever I may be talking about, they may do so. However, if I never seen you before, if I never heard from you, I will insist that you come up in the backstage to make sure that no one tries to ambush any point of terror, which will cause the people of YouTube to take down this stream. Once I see that you are going to abide by my guidelines of my service, you will be allowed onto the panel. Now, whether you decide to come up after that I leave up to you. Some people feel comfortable about coming up, others don't. I don't interfere with that. So let me just state what's going to be scheduled for next week. So as far as my main channel, I'll be live Sunday night, Tuesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Thursday will be another episode open discussion, which will air at 10:30. I will air another episode of Latina Diaspora most likely Monday. I will announce what will be the topic when I go live on Sunday. So the thing I'm going to talk about is personal safety. Now, of course, when we need to be mindful of our surroundings. Okay, because we don't know anything can happen. And I was surprised to find out that not far from where I live, a person was stabbed, and that was very that brought a great deal of concern because many of us believe the area where I live is relatively safe. Of course, we all know crime can happen anywhere. Okay, so I'm happy to say that the person who the victim have survived. I think he's home or she. I don't know, but it does reinforces the fact that we have to be mindful about our surroundings. We have to be mindful who we are. Okay, and take every necessary precaution to protect yourself. Which means, of course, you don't walk dark unlit streets, unlit streets. Okay. If you are able, take a cab to get from point A to point B, at the end of the evening. Or, if better yet, if you're able to travel with someone, even better. But the main thing is just be mindful of your surroundings and do not take any unnecessary chances. Okay, because one walk in an unlit area, you can expose yourself to a great deal of harm or even getting yourself disease. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is that all of us who have a public platform, um, we need to be mindful about our words and our actions because they both carry consequences depending on what is the nature of what's being said or what's been done. All of us that have public platforms um, on social media, we have the possibility of being the voice of reason or the voice of chaos. Each one of us has the possibility that our words and action can lead to positive results or can lead to negative results. Okay. So with that being in mind, we need to govern ourselves accordingly. Now I know not every content creator is going to do that. Everyone is free to do on their platforms as they see fit. But in my case, I will remain to be very careful about my words and very careful about my actions because my words and my actions do produce consequences. And unfortunately, when it comes to Charlie Kirk, his words and actions, whatever it may be, cause him to be deleted. So that's something to take into account. Now, one thing I do plan to talk about, it's a difficult topic, but I believe it's time for us to discuss it, is regarding children who are exploited. Okay. We're living in a day and age that unfortunately there are individuals that do exploit children for their un okay, I'm their carnal desires. And what happens is Children are the one that suffer. Children go through fearing adults. Children go through self-blame. Children, their childhood is taken away from them because you have an individual who have unnatural desires when it comes to children. I'll probably do air this towards the end of the month. I just want to make sure that I properly prepare, okay? And because I do want to give the facts, um, and also give resources as well, to those children who, unfortunately are victims of exploitation. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is, first of all, I want to, as always, give a huge shout out to my supporters. Okay. When I became a serious content creator, 4 years ago, I didn't really expect fully what would be the result. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that I have developed a following, people who generally enjoy my content, and I really appreciate them. But there is someone that also made it possible, God Almighty. And why do I say that? It's because, first of all, it was God that gave me my brain. It was God that gave me my creativity. It was God that gave me wisdom regarding what I should discuss and what I should avoid. And I realized that I don't give God enough credit. But going forward, I'm gonna give God his proper due, because it's God that made all things possible. Okay, and actually, God does use any situation uh, for His glory and honor. So going forward, of course, I'm gonna continue giving my thanks for my supporter, which I affectionately call as the oncoming folk, but also the glory and honor to God Almighty. Okay, and in fact, the Bible talks about whatever you say, do for the glory of God. And if you operate out of that mindset, you're not going to do any. You're not going to say anything offensive. You're not going to do anything offensive. You're going to be ever so mindful of your words and your actions, because your words and actions have consequences. And of course, people are still continuing to talk about um, Charlie Kirk and the fact it was deleted. In fact, what's been the situation is that you have you have comedians, you have people who have a lost audiences are being silent because they um, either they were celebrating his demise or they were making light um, of certain people. Now, one thing we do have to bear in mind is that yes, we have we like to believe we have freedom, but because you have freedom of speech does not mean you don't have freedom of consequences. And I know for some people That's a difficult concept to wrap your head around. But the fact of the matter is, every word has a result. We can use our words to encourage people. We can use our words as a source of empathy, companionship. But at the same time, we can also use our words to hurt people. And and unfortunately, good evening, Finder. Thank you very much for stopping by. Okay, but we have to be mindful of our words. Okay, we have to be fun. We have to be. Okay, can encourage, but at the same time, our words can destroy. Our words can destroy dreams. Our words can destroy hope. Our words can bring death. Okay, so we have to be very mindful of what we say or what we do. If if we were all able to take that into consideration, maybe there wouldn't be so many people that are traumatized. Maybe there wouldn't be so much hate. Which which brings me to my next topic. Unfortunately, we're living in a time and age when people are full of hate, and hate can come from it can come from disappointment, it can come from betrayal, but one of the sure signs is because of unforgiveness. Now I know people um, sometimes tend to struggle to forgive. People think that if you forgive someone, it's like you're okaying their behavior, or it means that you can continue to have fellowship with the person. You can forgive a person and not have nothing to do with the person again. Okay. Now the way I define forgiveness is when you reach that state that that action or that word that was said to you that caused you a great deal of pain, anxiety, or feelings of low self-esteem no longer affect you. Okay. And I think if more people understood forgiveness that way, it'll be easier to forgive. But as I stated in an earlier stream, um, unforgiveness can bring about deterioration of your mental well-being and bring about illnesses because it does affect you physically, it does affect you mentally, it does affect you emotionally, it also affects you spiritually. So I know that times people struggle, okay, but the key is just to acknowledge that, and eventually, in time, you learn to let go of that unforgiveness. Because unforgiveness, you're not doing anything about the person who did do it. did the act or said the word, all you're doing is harming yourself. But unfortunately, some of us allow ourselves to be consumed with unforgiveness. And for those who are just tuning in right now, we're having another episode of Open Discussion where I will express my views regarding multiple topics. And of course, you, the audience, will have an opportunity to opine. At the same time, there might be things that you want me to talk about, and I will do my best to comply. Okay. The one thing I would prefer not to get into is the situation between the Israeli government and Hamas. Okay. Because unfortunately, people do not know how to have a serious discussion without getting emotional. And and I truly believe you don't repay evil with evil. Okay. And I think it was Gandhi that said, "An eye for an eye, lead the whole world to be blind." Okay. And if you repay evil with evil, it just makes the situation even worse. And for there to be a solution, both sides must be willing to discuss and set aside their hurt, set aside their mistrust, and try to reach some sort of a conclusion. Now, this Sunday, I'm going to do something a little different. Okay. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing some of the shorts that I created. Okay. That either tend to be motivational. Some there's a couple like a one of a prayer, or they're very funny. And I can't believe that some of those shorts that did actually went viral. I mean, I actually have one that got over 36,000, which is incredible. Okay. And what's incredible is the growth of my channel. And again, I thank God for making it possible, and also thank all my supporters who tune into my content week in, week out. Okay. In fact, just this month alone, I've gained 52 subs, which is like, okay, to put it in perspective, that's like 2 or 3 months of subs being gained literally in about a week, which is like, whoa. I mean, and I'm truly humble. I am truly humbled by the amount of love all is shared regarding my content. I am truly humbled regarding the fact that people actually like my content. I mean, I really am humble. Seriously. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is, of course, as the days grow shorter, um, and the leaves start to change colors, we start thinking about upcoming holidays. Okay. Now, for many of us, the holidays is a happy time, particularly when we get into November and it's time for Thanksgiving, and then December we have Christmas, we have Hanukkah, we also have Kwanzaa, and we have all sorts of social gatherings and things of that nature, where we have the opportunity to break bread with our loved ones. We have the opportunity to enjoy some good home cooking and also watch some football games, perhaps. But one thing we always have to bear in mind that for some people, the holidays are a lonely time. Lonely because they've experienced the loss of loved ones. They also experience problems with their health. They also have problems with their relationship with the significant others. Uh, Relationships ending, marriages ending, people losing their livelihood. Okay, and while it is it is a festive time for some people. It's not a festive time for some people. It's just that first of all, it's like they feel pressure to show that they are having a good time when they're dying slowly. Okay, and this is and for people who are lonely, people who have been estranged from their loved ones, particularly the elderly, from New Thanksgiving to New Year's. This is one of the most loneliest times of the year, particularly when you advance in age, because more and more of your loved ones have have passed away, and those who were friends, they don't visit. So sometimes people feel um, empty. People feel lonely. People feel that they're not loved. So that's what, and unfortunately, what is the result is many of them fall into a state of depression, and some of them actually thought about self-deletion. So, so I'm gonna discuss that topic again when it gets into the holidays because it's something it's easier to ignore, but we shouldn't. Okay, and actually, we need to be patient when these people who are depressed. What we can do is invite them to a social function of things of that nature, or spend the time and visit them. Let them know that they're not alone. Let them know that there are people that do love them, that do care about them. Okay, and of course, some of them might, some of them uh, might be reluctant. But I'm sure if you're patient with them, they will accept the invitations and things of that nature. So let me just see if there's anybody else. Um, it's just that I just said, unfortunately, I don't stay on top on who's watching on Instagram, so I just want to make sure that I acknowledge those who are, and again, those also watching it on Instagram, welcome to the stream. You're more than welcome. Of course, if you have not done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. And of course, there's been, I'm not gonna lie, there's some people that I have missed. Okay, they used to frequent my cyber home, but they don't do it now. And I prefer to think of it's because they have other things that requires their attention. We all have lives outside too. Okay, we have our families, we have our jobs, we have our loved ones, or there might be other concerns that's keeping people away from visiting my platform. But at this point, also know they're more than welcome to join the panel or in the chat should do so. Now, of course, also, of course, we also be mindful that there's holidays coming up. For example, next week is the Jewish New Year, known as Rosh Hashanah. But just want to say to anyone who's watching this who have the Jewish faith, here, okay, and of course they follow the whole the holidays. Um, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. That's a day when Jews they pray, they fast, and they ask God for forgiveness for the sins that they committed in the year. Okay, but one thing we all have to bear in mind that God does forgive sin um, if we're truly repentant and change from our ways. Okay, and people talk about that God is a God of justice. He's a holy God. He's a just God, but he's also compassionate God. Okay, and what God wants for us is to remain faithful to Him, allow Him to guide our paths, and to live according to His will. Okay. Now, another thing that I want to talk about when October is domestic violence. So what I will be doing is discussing, what are the causes, what could be done, and of course I'll have resources to share if the viewers know someone that is a victim of domestic violence. Perhaps they are dealing with domestic violence, and unfortunately, great deal of myth, misinformation when it comes to domestic violence. Also, misconceptions. One thing we all have to bear in mind that it does affect the self-esteem of the victim. And next thing you know, you have the victims blaming themselves while it's transpired. I will be discussing domestic violence in October. And a huge shout out to the watching as we speak. So, and again, the topic for tonight is open discussion where I will share my views regarding multiple topics. And of course, you will have an opportunity to give a point of view as you see fit. Or you may want me to discuss something else. Okay? And of course, I will do my best to comply. Okay. So, being that tonight seems to be a very slow night, I'm probably going to be on for another 15 to 20 minutes. Now, I know one that actually asked me what what they need to do to create a YouTube channel. I mean, it's not just opening up StreamYard and just start talking. You really have to think it up. First of all, you have to figure out what your channel is going to be about, and then once you figure that out, then there's the visual aesthetics. Trying to come up with uh, an avatar, trying to come up with graphics as far as how your YouTube channel should look, and then trying to come up with what's going to be the main focus. Also, making rules regarding who gets on the platform, who does not, and under what circumstance. Okay, and establishing guidelines where you, as a content creator, make sure that they all comply. Now, unfortunately, um, we're also living in a day and age where people, what they would do is they try to take advantage of someone who does not be from StreamYard. And what they might do is try to post pornographic videos or pornographic videos. Okay, try to cause embarrassment to the host. Now, I have been fortunate that no one has tried to post pornographic um, videos on my stream. But regardless, I am forever being vigilant regarding gets on the platform and under what circumstances. Because my platform is a reflection of me. So when I allow wretched behavior to go on unchecked, uh, that speaks ill regarding myself. Okay? And of course, there's continued drama regarding Dr. Umar Johnson and his school. Okay. Of course, there's always seemed to be controversy with him because, first of all, um, he accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars for the purpose of creating a school for excellence for black boys. What we have is a building that that's that apparently leads a great deal of work, and of course, with the individuals, accountability is like kryptonite. To this day, Dr. Umar Johnson has failed to provide uh, any receipts regarding income and expenditures, and in fact, he may be up an investigation by the IRS regarding tax fraud. Okay, but it does it does pose a lesson. The lesson is not everyone is what they claim to be. Okay, um, and also anyone, okay, that has the ability to change and mold the lives of countless millions of people. You need to properly vet that you wish to follow. Okay. Do they bring anything constructive into the situation? Um, it is something that people of my generation would, can appreciate and enjoy. Okay. Now I'm gonna be on for another 10 minutes, and then I'll start to wrap this up. I'm just gonna excuse very thirsty talk. And for your own personal information, I'm drinking lemonade. Okay. And of course, with each passing day, I think about the time when it's time for me to retire. Okay. And believe me, I do have plans during my retirement. I plan to lead a very active retired life. I, among the things I plan to do, is continue to be active with my union. Plus, in my neighborhood, there are two senior citizen centers where they have all sorts of activities. Also, whenever I am in the mood, I will travel. Okay. I mean, what I want to get off, you know, cross off my bucket list is to travel to Europe, particularly Madrid and London. Why do I want to visit those countries? Those cities, I don't know. It's just, it's thing about it that calls my attention. And of course, Madrid and London are cities that have existed for centuries. So I want to be able to do some traveling before it's time for me to depart. Okay. And while I made while I made some mistakes along the way, okay, I've tried to learn from them. Okay, no one is infallible except God Almighty. And I know that in my lifetime, I made some poor choices. Poor choices as far as people who are friends. Poor choices when it comes to relationships. And of course, um, I was married, but the marriage ended after 2 years in divorce. And one thing that I have said before, and I'll continue to say, I did not blame my ex-wife for all the problems. She played her part, and I played my part. I know that for a 10-year period, um, I chose not to speak with my ex-wife because it did get very toxic towards the end, and I just didn't want to deal with the toxicity. Now, after 10 years, she did reach out she wanted to apologize uh, for her role as far as why the marriage ended up divorce. And of course, they say, look, I don't hold any grudge, any ill feelings. We were both responsible. And really, when you think about it, excuse me, I exercise poor judgment. I should have done a better job of vetting. Okay, so I am able to take accountability for my actions. And for me, accountability is not a trigger word. It's just a reality where I made a poor decision. Okay, and I learned from it. Okay, it's one thing when you make poor decisions and you learn from it, and you don't repeat them. It's another thing when you make, nor did you take accountability for your actions. Okay, you're like uh, the lack of ability to take accountability. Okay, it just so happens that some people, for whatever reasons, were never taught to take accountability. I mean, they figure as long as they allowed to do whatever they want. They don't have to worry that people will, you know, that other people will take the blame for them. I prefer to take accountability for myself. And the final thing um, that I want to talk about is that one thing we have to bear in mind that there are a lot of hurt people out there. There are people that have gone through heavy trauma. There are people who are dealing with the lack of self forgiveness or holding grudges. Okay. One thing, the problem with holding grudges is that really you really hurt the person that hurt you. What happens is you end up hurting yourself, and when you hold a grudge, uh, it starts to affect you mentally, it affects you spiritually. It can also affect you physically in the sense that you're not getting enough sleep because you're constantly dwelling regarding the words or the actions that cause you pain, that rob you of your. So by learning to let go of it, you don't allow disappointments or anger to be your master. Now, is it going to be easy at first? No. But the more you do it, the more you're able to do it. Okay. And with that being with that being said, um, I'm gonna start to wrap this up because it looks like no one is gonna join me, and it looks like people are gonna watch the playback. It happens. Okay. There are days where there's a great deal of activity in the chat, and there's a great number of people viewing my content. And then there are those days where my content don't get a lot of activity. Okay. But one thing that I've said before, and it's very true, that this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. It takes time and it takes dedication to to grow a platform. Okay. Because what you have to do is first of all you have to use your your, your brain cells to come up with topics where you're hoping that people will enjoy. And then there's the reading of the material, preparing your facts. So therefore, when you do talk about it, at least you will sound reasonably intelligent. Okay. Unfortunately, we're living in an age when people are talking about stuff where they have little or no knowledge. Not me. I have no problem, admitting there are things I don't know, and that's perfectly fine because I'm not tricked by that. So with that being said, unless anybody else wanted to hit the link, um, I will start. I will start to wrap this up. So and the one thing I've learned to do is to express my point of views without notes. Okay, because and I did not want the situation where I'm talking about something and I don't have anything to say. So what I did was, of course, I will prepare notes and then I'll make it, and I'll make a visual, no, a notation or something saying I discussed this, I discussed this, I discussed this. So now basically I'm just speaking off the cuff, so to speak, and I think I do a pretty decent job at it. I know that people that need to take a whole bunch of notes. At this point, I got to the point where I can express in a intelligent way my point of view without notes. And again, a huge shout out to all those who have subscribed to the channel so far. Please continue to support the channel. Um, if you can, hit the like button. Um, Also, if you're gonna share, hopefully, it'll be for the purposes of sharing knowledge and information. And of course, next month is my birthday, so I do plan to do a birthday celebration live on my birthday. Um, now I just wanted to need to figure out how I'm gonna do it. Okay, but I will do it, and hopefully all of you will stop by and wish yours truly a happy birthday when it comes. And with that being said, we gotta wrap this up. So just to let you know, I will be live on Sunday, um, 10:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'm gonna be sharing you some of the humorous videos that I've produced. So we could know. So basically, it's gonna be like a chill night to relax and to have a little fun. Okay, it's something I don't do a lot, and I'm gonna do this every so often, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, if it's well received, now can do it every so often. If not, then well, do it once, get out of the way, what have you. Okay, and of course, um, with this weekend, make sure that you enjoy your time, enjoy your weekend. Okay, use the time to relax and you know, not deal with the pressures of the job um, for a week or for a couple of days. And one thing I have to learn to do is not think about work when I'm on vacation. Okay, so with that being said, and of course we will end this the same way that we always end it. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of mental intellectual challenge. Because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by their stupidity and massive insanity. This has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. And before I forget, uh, I would really appreciate if you spread the word regarding this channel to some other people and also encouraging them um, check out my content and to subscribe. Okay, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Um, but when I do produce content, if you enjoy it, hit the like button. Uh, Also, if you know people who have not subscribed, please consider passing the word and asking them to subscribe to my channel. And of course, whenever other YouTube creators are in the chat, of course, I will reciprocate and I will encourage my supporters uh, to check out their content and subscribe. Okay, because we okay we who do not have huge platforms, we need to do what we can to encourage each other, uh, to help them to grow, help them to develop um, content for them. Okay, let me just check one more time. See. Oh, okay. You have to excuse me. It's just that every couple months, um, I do want to make sure that I acknowledge anyone that's in Instagram, and that's something I need to think about. Whether continue to air on Instagram or perhaps go back to I'm just trying to think what's it Twitch. So with that being said, just want to wish all of you a good night. Enjoy your weekend. Take care. Be good to yourselves and